I disagree with the way in which the current administration has chosen to engage. For while there are few global problems we can solve by ourselves, there are virtually no global problems that can be solved without us. In confronting the challenges of our time, there are more nations than ever capable of contributing. But there is still only one nation capable of leading. And I disagree with voices in my own party who argue that we should not engage at all, who warn that we should heed the words of John Quincy Adams, not to go abroad in search of monsters to destroy. I disagree because all around us, we see the human face of America's influence. It actually begins not with our government, but with our people. Millions of people have been the catalyst of democratic change in their own countries, but they never would have been able to connect with each other if an American had not invented Twitter. The atrocities of Joseph Kony would be largely unknown, but in fact, millions of people know about it because an American made a film and distributed it on another American innovation, YouTube. And even in our military engagements, the lasting impact of our influence on the world is hard to ignore. Millions of people have emerged from poverty around the world, in part because our Navy protects the freedom of the seas, allowing the ever-increasing flow of goods between nations. And long after the last American soldier has left Afghanistan, God willing, there will be millions of strong, productive, and independent Afghan women, because today, they are the first girls in generations to attend school, thanks to the generosity of the American people. We do these things because we're a compassionate people, but we also do it because it's in our national interest. Because perhaps more than any other nation on earth, we understand that a world that is freer, more just, more peaceful, and more prosperous poses less of a threat. Now look, I know this is a time of great uncertainty, a time when many wonder if America is in decline. And once again, as Bob Kagan points out in his book, however, there have been other times when we felt less than confident about the future. We need to look no further than the decade of my birth for an example. In the 1970s, we experienced setbacks against communism in Asia, the collapse of trust in government, the oil shock, stagflation, high interest rates, Soviet expansion, the hostage crisis in Iran, and disco music. Americans were worried that something had permanently changed for our country. We couldn't be certain our standard of living would improve generation after generation, and even less certain that we could maintain America's primacy in world affairs. Then, as now, a serious school of thought emerged to confirm these worries, and it gained attention in our national debates. We had a nice run, but nothing lasts forever, the argument went. Our problems are too numerous, our resources too depleted, our economy too dependent on dying industries, our public institutions too inadaptable, and our rivals too potent for us to keep pace with, much less stay ahead of. And now, they said back then, the most important responsibility of public officials is to manage our decline intelligently and to mitigate its consequences at home and abroad. We know now, of course, that that's not how it turned out. By the end of the next decade, few were speculating about what the world would be like without America's leadership, because we were once again in a unique unipolar moment when American power and influence seemed virtually unchallenged. Well, now we're worried again, and that's understandable. The pace of change in the world is so fast, and the challenges we face are so numerous and serious that many Americans worry we can't sustain our way of life at home, much less maintain the burden of leading the world. The financial crisis, the steep drop in the value of our homes, a deep recession and excruciating slow recovery, high unemployment, stagnant wages, record budget deficits and public debt, a lack of confidence in the ability of our government and political system to solve problems, soaring energy prices, 2 long wars, new and complex threats to international peace and stability, and the rapid rise of China as an economic competitor and a rival for global influence. There are plenty of reasons to worry. And yet, with all these problems, there's absolutely no reason why America cannot remain a global superpower in this new century as well.